Richard Wagner was not happy with the traditional way in which operas were constructed, with arias, duets, and other ensembles. His project, which revolutionized opera, was a 25-year-long effort in which he composed the four operas called the Ring of the Nibelungen, but usually referred to as the Ring or the Ring Cycle. These four operas are mostly performed as a multi-day festival, and people, affectionately known as ringheads, travel all over the world to see them. The first opera in the cycle is Das Rheingold, or The Gold of the Rhine. Wagner wrote the operas in reverse order from how they are performed, and so Rheingold was written last. He referred to it as a prologue to the other three because in it the stage is set for the events that follow. The production I will be using for the video clips was the very traditional Otto Schenk Met production of 1990, conducted by James Levine. In order to provide coherence to the 15 hours of the complete ring cycle, Wagner used musical motifs known as leitmotifs, each of which is associated with specific characters, emotions, objects, events. Many of these will be apparent as you listen to the music, and I have identified some of them on the video. The opera begins with the creation of the world, which is impressively depicted by an E-flat chord, which begins as a single note and then evolves into a full orchestral piece. This takes about 3 minutes, a lot quicker than the 6-day biblical creation story, and very much quicker than the more than 10 billion years of evolution in the scientific story. When the creation of the world is complete, we find ourselves in the depths of the Rhine, where three mermaid-like Rhine maidens are guarding a pile of gold that was placed there by their father. It is not clear how he acquired the gold. Their idyllic reverie is interrupted by the arrival of Alberich. Describing Alberich is truly a challenge to one's political correctness. Wagner tells us that Alberich is a dwarf, a repulsive member of an unattractive race of subhumans. But Alberich's self-awareness doesn't stop him from trying to seduce at least one of these voluptuous maidens. Of course, they find him particularly disgusting and cruelly tease and torment him. But their pride in their gold gets the better of them, and they draw his attention to it. They are not very good guardians of their father's treasure. They make an even bigger mistake when they tell him of the power the gold would give to anyone who possessed it. They tell him how a ring made of the gold would give whoever wore it complete power over everyone else. The catch, though, is that to get this power, this person would have to renounce love. And of course, how could any man agree to give up women? Albrecht, who is no fool, thinks about it and realizes that he is not getting any love anyway, and if he had all that power, with his shrewdness, he could use it to get whoever he desired. So, to their dismay, he dramatically renounces love and makes off with all the gold. Meanwhile, up in the clouds live the gods, with Wotan as their ruler. Wotan is a free spirit, but his wife Fricka is dedicated to law and order. They have a daughter and 2 sons. Wotan and his wife are standing in front of their newly built home, which he has called Valhalla. Imagine 20,000 plus square feet with an Olympic-sized, what else, swimming pool, tennis courts, gold-plated plumbing fixtures, everything money can buy. Fricka hopes the big house will tame her husband's free spirit and keep him home and not out gallivanting with women who already have had quite a few of his children. Their problem at this moment is that he doesn't have the money to pay the contractors for the house. The contractors arrive to discuss what they are owed and what they will accept in lieu of money. The giants, Fasolt and Fafnir, are very different. Fasolt longs for female companionship and is eager to accept Freya as payment. Freya, of course, is Wotan's sister-in-law. Fafnir couldn't care less about Freya. He just wants the money. But he is willing to accept her because Freya is the only one who knows how to tend the golden apples which keep the gods young and which they are bound to ransom back when they get the money. Wotan is counting on a demigod named Loga to figure out how to get the money he needs. But where is he? Logan is like the consigliere to the boss in countless mafia movies, the brains of the mob, or in this case, royal family. He shows up, but turns out not to be of much help at first. He demonstrates his skill when he recounts to Wotan the events we just saw in the first scene of the opera. Then he cleverly sets Wotan up by suggesting that they steal the gold from Alberich and return it to the Rhine, knowing that Wotan would never be that magnanimous.
Und der Bade mit uns, das Rheingold, darauf sich rächte die. Was dünkt ihm nun das teuerste Gut, das Recht und träges Räuber, das Gold dem Wasser wiedergibet, und ihm ist es
Wotan decides to steal the gold from Alberich. They descend to a subterranean mine where Alberich has enslaved hundreds of Nibelungen. When Alberich sees Wotan, he brags about how powerful a lowlife like him is, so that even a big shot like Wotan, there up in the clouds, is asking for his help.
Parteien verachtet ihr ewige Steine. Habt Acht! Habt Acht! Denn dient ihr Männer erst meiner Macht, eure schmucken Frauen, die mein Verein verschmäht. Sie zwingt zur Lust sich der Zwerg nach der Liebe ihm nicht.
Loga tricks Alberich so they are able to capture him and bring him to Valhalla up in the clouds. Alberich has no choice, and he orders his slaves to bring the pile of gold up in the clouds and give it all to Wotan. He has already had the gold ring made, and he refuses to give that up. Wotan has to physically wrest it from Alberich's finger.
Zerknickt der traurigen, traurigster Knecht. All dies, was mich erlebt, der mächtigen, mächtigsten
This is a dramatic turning point in the opera. Alberich puts a curse on all future possessors of the ring, and this curse becomes a driving force. The giants return with Freya. Fasolt can't bear the thought of seeing Freya, knowing he must give her up. He demands that they pile up enough gold to hide her, but even then he can see her eye through a chink in the gold, and demands the ring from Wotan to hide her eye. Wotan refuses, but at this point the ground opens up, and Erda, the earth goddess, rises up and warns Wotan about what will befall him unless he gives up the ring. Wotan reluctantly gives up the ring. Freya is released to her family's joy. Not to mention, they'll all become young again.
Ladies and toilet
The giants then start dividing up the gold. Fafnir tries to cheat his brother out of his share of the gold. They get into an argument over the ring, and Fafnir kills his brother. The curse of the ring is working. The gods can now enter Valhalla across the Rainbow Bridge, free of all fear. Really?